All right, it's the 10th general election after independence and the 6th general election in the Fourth Republic, and still counting. And Nigerians are coming out and saying the 2019 election is the biggest election so far in the history of Nigeria because of the large turnout, the number of voters, and the number of political parties and candidates on the ballot papers. Thanks for joining us at the Nigeria Vote Studio. And I am Michael Kwache. And I have my guests in the studio. We've been doing justice to this analysis in here. Now, we have our correspondents scattered around in parts of the country. Every state in Nigeria, we've been bringing you live updates of what is going on in parts of the country. Voting ended yesterday, and collation is ongoing, and INEC is on top of the game, trying to ensure that the process goes on well, letting Nigerians know what is going on, and certainly TVC will be at the top of that, bringing you minute-by-minute update of what's going on in parts of the country. I have with us Curtis Adigba, a lawyer and an analyst with us in the studio. Curtis, it's still good to have you join us here. And Ayodele Adewale, a former local government chairman, Amowo Dofin, and he's also an analyst. Thank you very much for remaining with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we go into the analysis of the election process, trying to look at some areas, Comrade, you were talking earlier on about young leaders learning from the old, old founding fathers and all of that. Now, if I have to bring it down to the issue of unionism, for instance, catching them young and all of that. You were one member, student union leader at your time. You worked with some persons like Philip Shaibu, who is even the deputy governor of Edo State right now, Tony Ngoe, who is a member of the National Assembly. There are others, Babashe Uteraba and all of that. The crop of those leaders. Now, what would you say you all are learning in looking for ways to change the system from what the complaints that we are having right now to what it is supposed to be?
You see, this crop of leaders that you mentioned, what brought us together was the NANS, right, the National Association of Nigerian Students. From our various campuses, we were also student leaders. I was president of student union in LASU. And at the NANS, we have the Senate platform. The Senate is like the National Assembly, where all student leaders come together. Well, we talk on three major topics. One is state of the campus, state of the union, and state of the nation. There, we also polemize and try to see what is happening within the state of the nation, and we prefer solutions, ideological solutions. Now, one of the schools that had the best template was ABU Zaria. ABU had a kind of a mock session, an African Union mock session where you have students dressing like various presidents from various countries. They'll come there, talk about their policies, and they try to also provide solutions to African problems. Now, these are grounds where you groom leaders. You allow these students to exhibit their talents.
What impact is that having on the system right now?
The impact is that in most institutions of higher learning, these platforms have been killed, or they are stereotyped to be pro-university management. And the university management, in most cases, are not progressives, quote and unquote. You understand? They are subservient to some certain dictates and authority that they are, aligned to. But once it's not people-oriented, it becomes a problem. For instance, if I'm a vice chancellor of a university, I will allow students to exhibit, their talents. And if things are not going well, as they see it, we'll discuss. So you must open a discussion.
So sometimes the student union leaders are too powerful for the
They become powerful.
VCs
They become
control.
powerful when you're not doing the right thing.
Okay.
OAU used to have a vice chancellor. He's an half-caste man. I can't remember his name now. This vice chancellor, whenever they're having problem, the man will come in the midst of students. We sit with them, discuss with them, at times lead protest on campus if things are not working well. The main thing is that you must allow people to exhibit themselves, to voice out, and if things are not working well, let them know why it's not working well, and of course take submission from them.
All right. Curtis, let's get to this election proper now. In some of the reports that was played earlier on during the news, you heard one of the ad hoc staff saying that, well, the card reader couldn't read the voters' a card, and there's nothing they can do about it. We all know of the Electoral Act, which says that as far as your name is in the voter register, although it leaves it at the discretion of the polling officers to whether to let you vote or not, as the case may be.
Okay, yeah, it's a difficult case.
All right.
Because you also must be very careful that some people are not bringing to the polling booth cloned PVCs. No, there's nothing you can put beyond us as people. We said here some few minutes ago that there's a breakdown of values, breakdown of our system. You're talking about other African countries where people will just walk in there and cast their votes. In Kenya, the last election in Kenya, presiding officers received their sensitive materials, as we call them here, days before the election. In one primary school, one guy had a bush lantern with his materials there, no policeman, and he was sleeping there to conduct the election the next day. You try that in this country, there's a miracle overnight. They either disappear or the man is bought, and then he sells the materials, and you're hearing a different story. Look, it is a difficult one, because at my polling booth yesterday, where I voted, we also had cases like that. Some voters came, they had their card, they couldn't find the name on the voters register, you know, and the card reader couldn't read their cards. And there was no way they could vote, because how would the INEC staff verify that indeed they are registered to vote? So you're going to have
that's why they have the voter register. If their name is in the voter register, it could be a fault of the card reader not to read their card, what is it called? Read their card, isn't it?
No, what happened is,
yes,
it's almost impossible for the card reader not to read your card at all if it's genuine. Now, the card reader could read your card,
so you're talking about the presence of cloned
yeah,
PVCs.
I'm just saying in some cases, but you see, the card reader will read your card. What the card reader might not do in most cases, from what I saw yesterday, it might not authenticate your fingerprint. In which case, you are then required to do a physical thumbprint on the register of voter. There's a slot there, and then take your phone number before you are given the ballot papers to go and vote. So you see there's interconnectivity of the process, so that you cannot say that, oh, because your fingerprint, your thumbprint were not verified, you couldn't vote. But at least the card reader showed that the card is authentic and was issued from them. But it's a different situation altogether when your name is not on the voters register, you have a card, and the card cannot be read by the card reader.
Okay.
So it becomes very difficult. And I think INEC took a cautious route to prevent this allegation of rigging or that
or disenfranchisement and things like that.
Thank you.
All right, when it comes to the issue of accreditation and voting alongside, so that you know you are through and then you leave and all of that, we still had some political parties who have issues against it. They want to go back to the old, before the pre-2015, where you accredit, you go and wait, and then you come back to do the actual voting.
Well, when we talk about management of time, I think the process that have been adopted, I believe so, is the best. Because if you allow people to do accreditation and go home, there is a tendency that people can look along that line, along that divide, and they see that this party has more of people who have done accreditation, then the issue of violence might come in. If some parties are not tolerable, they are not sportsmen, they don't have that sports spirit, and they could go and disrupt the process. So what is best is that, and it saves time, especially when you have a huge number of people in that particular voting center. Just do your accreditation, cast your vote, and protect your vote.
There are even the issues of people who accredit in the old system. You accredit, and then some people feel that is the voting. They don't know the difference. Some might even go home and sleep. They just go home, especially for those who are not. All right, now, Comrade, let me remain with you. Let's get into the issue of security now. We heard, apart from what I might call the generic security issue in the northeast, where we had bomb issues in parts of Yobe State and in Borno State. We had security challenges where some persons even died in Delta, in Bayelsa, in River State, and so on. When it comes to preparation, that deployment of security and then checking the presence of security and what happened. How would you rate the security for this election?
Well, if I should compare it to what happened in 2015, I would say the security operative have moved forward. They've moved forward. I wouldn't want to score them too high, but they've moved forward. If I should compare now, looking at the south and the north, I will give whoever that is handling the northern part of Nigeria some thumbs up, because they've been able to address the issue of black spots. You know, there's a difference between black spot and flashpoints. Now, in the south, whoever that is handling the south needs to be queried, because of course there are some black spots, and those black spots or spotted areas are not critically looked into.
How would you differentiate the black? What is the black difference?
Now,
between
the black spot,
and
the black spot is where you have criminal hibernating.
Okay.
You understand? Strongholds of criminal. Now, the flashpoint is where the crime takes place. So it's better to curb the black spot, you understand, before you get to a flashpoint. Now, those black spotted areas, security intel should have been gathered before then. The movement of people, movement of arms and ammunition would have been seen. And when you see this, you wrap it up. If need be, take these people out of circulation for orientation in order for us to have a perfect electoral system. You understand? And if you don't do this and you are waiting for them at the flashpoint, it's going to discredit the electoral process.
Curtis,
yes,
in security, when it comes to security, we always know that election is like going to war in Nigeria. And the presence, we spoke to Tessa Makinde, our correspondent earlier on, who said that there was heavy security presence on the streets in Kaduna, but people still had that anxiety and that apprehension as to, we are not sure what is going to happen and all of that. How would you assess that?
Because in the past, they also had security presence and lives were lost. So you know, human beings are historical in nature. So you tend to go back to what had happened in the past. But look, security is everybody's concern. We don't have the same responsibility as far as security is concerned, but we have a part to play, and that is by conducting ourselves in accordance with laid down rules and acceptable behavior in the society. Look, why do we have people who want to go out there and snatch ballot boxes? Why do we have human beings, you know, who want the greatest things to happen to their country? How can we have some people go out there with arms and chase others away from voting? That's despicable. You know, because see, security is not just about you have people carrying arms and they're going there to protect. We must again tell ourselves the truth in this country, that look, there is nothing so much the security agents can do if we are not going to behave well. Because they can do all the planning and achieve 99% result. They just need to get it wrong, 1%. And the whole country is on fire emotionally as to what has happened.
So the presence of security, or the policeman, the soldier, or does not necessarily translate into...
No, into security.
Okay.
It doesn't. Because you see, what you have there is an imposed environmental kind of assurance that, look, we have some armed people here. But real security flows from the people, the conduct of the people. That's why you are able to conduct elections in some other parts of the world when you don't have security men parading around and things are done properly. You know, nobody's afraid. You just walk into a polling booth. There are countries in the world where, in the course of election, you don't have public holidays. People go to work as if it's a normal day. And people take their break time, walk there to the polling booth, and cast their vote and walk away.
In fact, the elections are like festivals in those places.
Yeah, so you don't have soldiers or policemen, you know, barreling down on you with their guns or intimidating you with their looks. I think we must get to that point.
Ayodele, getting to that point that he talked about, how far away from that point are we where we don't have to talk about the deployment of military, deployment of soldiers, police, deployment of DSS, NSCDC and all of that? How far are we from the realities of where we are right now?
We are not far at all.
We're not far.
In fact, we are very close there, if we can get the right people in government. Now,
so it's about the person in government?
It's about the people in government. If you have a right kind of leader in government that provide infrastructure, that provide 24 hours of energy, that provide good quality education that is free, that provide good quality health system,